What's up? Aaron here, Kennedy and Looney. It's like the original Kennedy and Looney variety show. And we've got such a great lineup to rip into. I can't wait to show it. But yeah, let's just kick this off. Like, something's been bothering me this afternoon. We'll get into it later in the show. In Canadian federal politics, the Canucks are represented by two separate yet unequal groups. The globalists who sold out and the opposition trying to salvage a country. These are their stories. Let's see.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you the truth. My daughter is now saying, damn him, damn Trump, and smashing her hand on the table. And I said, wow, honey, what are you thinking? And she said, he made us move in order for our own safety. And it's now he's destroying the country. You know, listen, wow. She lives here. She hears what I'm saying to you. Not that I go around speaking like this every day if it's not an interview, but I think to myself, you don't want to give this to her. You know, whatever this thing is of me thinking that I have to somehow stand in defiance of him. No, I don't. Somebody can tap me out, you know. I did 22 years. I don't really need to do anymore. And I don't want my kid to be so affected by it. And, you know, she has autism.
But she recognizes what's going on.
Yes.
Well, I've said it, you know, previously, but I think from our perspective, what's gone on is that we think that Canada separated from Alberta. Like, we're not separating from Canada. Canada has already separated from Alberta. You know, it started with, re-electing Justin Trudeau and leaving Justin Trudeau in power for 10 years. And then I think the straw that broke the camel's back was that when, notwithstanding the fact that, you know, Alberta had been decimated by 10 years of Justin Trudeau, the destruction of our economy, the landlocking and the freezing of oil and gas development in Alberta, the destruction of the provincial economy. People in Ontario and Quebec were so stupid as to elect Mark Carney as the Prime Minister of Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Canada is a warning to the rest of the world. Now here's why. So let me ask you a question. If you gave a country the second largest landmass on Earth, planted it directly on top of the world's third largest proven oil reserves, surrounded it with 20% of the...
Listen to all this. This is pretty crazy. It's very convincing.
Planet's fresh surface water, handed it a border with the richest economy in the history of humanity, and filled its universities with world-class researchers, and then asked it to build a thriving civilization. How badly could that country mess up? It had everything going for it. There's one report that came out recently, which pretty much represents how Canada feels about itself and how far it has fallen. So Canada, according to the World Happiness Report that came out just recently, sits at 25th place, which is Canada's lowest ranking since the survey began. And keep in mind, in 2015, Canada was 5th place on the entire planet. In fact, the only comparable drop in happiness index of a country during that time were countries that experienced war, famine, or complete economic collapse. Canada experienced none of those, and yet there it is, falling 20 places in essentially a decade. But here's the part that really woke a lot of Canadians up. Yes, the overall ranking is 25th, but when you break it down by age, Canadians that were older, specifically those that were over the age of 60, ranked top 10 in the world for happiness, and Canadians that were 25 or under ranked 71st. The only countries in the world with a steeper decline in youth happiness have been Jordan, Venezuela, Lebanon, and Afghanistan. And I don't know if you guys know about this, but there's been some pretty bad things happening in those countries for the last decade or two. And yet Canada, the peaceful, prosperous, passport-friendly Canada, is in the same company as those countries.
How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein?
More than just elbows.
I was essentially tricked into signing documents for one of my older boys, Xavier, this is before I had really any understanding of what was going on, and we had COVID going on, and so there was a lot of confusion. I was told, Xavier might commit suicide if he.
That was a lie right from the outset.
Incredibly evil, and I agree with you that people that have been promoting this should go to prison.
That's
so I was tricked into doing this, it wasn't explained to me that puberty blockers are actually just sterilization drugs. Anyway, and so I lost my son essentially. They call it dead naming for a reason.
Yeah,
all right. So the reason it's called dead naming is because your son is dead. So my son Xavier is dead, killed by the woke mind virus.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what that would be like.
Yeah.
I think it is extraordinary that Mark Carney has become the Prime Minister of Canada. He did a terrible job in Britain of the governorship of the Bank of England. He created a lot of the problems that blew up on my watch and that I got blamed for were actually
other things, but yet you're taxing the means of production of food, and it doesn't impact the price.
Characterization of
being impacted by the tariffs.
We can't be accused of obstructing provisions that have not been presented in the House.
Well, I would imagine that.
Can I just try to get one more question in the minute I have left, Minister? Why do you think food cost inflation is twice the level that it is in the United States?
Well, I think we've covered this question in the House quite a bit, and we've got a number of conflating situations in Canada, including, as you would note, the tariffs that we've experiencing as a country. But you can yourself. I think you're from the western part of this country. You yourself can speak to
Minister,
some of the cattle farmers who are actually feeling quite despondent.
How do you think tariffs are impacting food inflation?
Look, there are a number of impacting.
Which tariffs specifically?
The focus here is on the things that we can control, as I said in my speech. And there is no doubt that Canadians are feeling the impact of food inflation.
Patty Haju is the worst.
But I will tell you what it's not, if this is where you're going. It is not, and as many economists have shown,
you're the minister. I'm not asking what it's not. I'm asking what it is. Why is it twice the United States?
Well, food inflation in Canada is directly related to the number of foods that we must import and to the growing challenges of climate change.
Is there an issue with translation?
Appel au règlement, Monsieur le Président. On a entendu que.
Give me a break.
We are hearing the interpreter saying inaudible. So that is very clear. My colleague is having fun speaking fast and interrupting the minister, but.
All participants to be respectful that the meeting must be translated.
The vast majority of these subsidies are going to go to foreign countries, including the
It'll get better here. Kyle Seaback is awesome.
United States, with a president who's declared war on our auto industry. I don't know how you justify that. You can change it right. You can say, you know what, we made a mistake. American EVs are not eligible until the trade war is over. Why won't you do that?
In the hot seat, we have Industry Minister Melanie Joly dodging questions from Raquel Dancho and Kyle Seaback. They're going to give it to her straight. Fresh from the bathroom.
Last week, yourself and the Prime Minister announced a $2.3 billion subsidy, taxpayer-funded subsidy for Canadians to purchase electric vehicles. As you know, the subsidy is available to American-made electric cars, which personally we found quite shocking given what the Americans are trying to do to our auto sector. You're well aware 5,000 jobs have been lost, countless others. Can you explain the rationale of allowing taxpayer-funded subsidies up to $2.3 billion to go towards the purchase of American-made electric vehicles?
So a couple of things. I think on the auto strategy, the objectives are clear. There are two of them. First is to support auto production in Canada, which I think we all agree here. And the second is really to make sure that we help the industry to get to a place where the rest of the industry in the world is, which is basically electrification. Because we know by 2039, 40% of all the cars sold in the world will be EVs. And while the Americans are taking their own decisions, we will be at the forefront of this industry and we won't just stay idle. So to your point, I was really really, I wanted to make sure that we're supporting auto production
Minister,
in Canada.
if I may step in again, the point is that you've created a subsidy program, a very generous one, $2.3 billion. It's a significant taxpayer investment for electric vehicles. Why did you not disallow the American vehicle market to have access to that? It is odd to me that given what they're doing to our auto sector market, that our tax dollars, everyone at this table and the auto sector workers who've lost their job, those taxpayer dollars can go towards subsidizing the American market. So you mentioned we should be helping all auto sectors. I don't agree that we should be helping the American auto sector. I'm not sure why you do.
So first and foremost, everybody, the industry, Premier Ford, unions, consumer groups are all in favor of the strategy. Why? Because they get the fact that actually we're supporting those who invest in us. Because what is important in your question, and which the Conservatives have unfortunately not alluded to, is the fact we have countermeasures on counter tariffs on US-made vehicles.
And we appreciate
but
that.
the reality is,
I appreciate that,
I'm sorry,
Minister.
I just
But
want to
again,
make sure that I finish. I just want to finish my
20 seconds, and then
Yeah,
Madame Dancho, I've
no
paused
problem.
it for the
Thank you.
duration of
So
France.
we have countermeasures. And when the American automakers reduce their production in Canada, well, we reduce their market access. We just did that with Stellantis. 50% of the cars they used to send to Canada now are if they're sent, they have tariffs. And same for GM, which is at 24.2% less of market access. So when you look at it, the incentives are linked to the fact that it is to support domestic production in Canada.
Okay, thanks, Minister.
And there is one, possibly two vehicles that are manufactured in Canada that are eligible for this subsidy. The last time your government brought forward a similar EV subsidy, 99% of it went to foreign auto sectors to buy their electric vehicles. So we can assume a similar situation will happen with this EV subsidy you've announced today. Again, I'm not quite sure why you would design a program where Canadian taxpayer dollars could go towards the benefit of the American auto sector. Again, can you explain why that's ethical in the situation that we're in today with the job losses, which is their explicit goal in the Trump administration?
Well, I think obviously the U.S. tariffs are creating this, and unfortunately, I think the Conservatives have been long to denounce the tariffs against the auto sector. You even have a colleague from North Oshawa North, that went and freelanced in last week, and until he was reminded that he was representing GM and GM auto workers were being impacted by the tariffs, he was saying nothing about it. But that being said, if we put that apart, I think what is important is we are all about affordability. We want to make sure that people will have access to cheap EVs, that they can basically embrace electrification, and that we can have more auto production in Canada that are EVs, but also that people can
there aren't a lot of
have
options
access
to buy
cheaper
Canadian-made
EVs, which
EVs,
is what Canadians are looking for.
And so that leaves very little option for Canadians. There are a number of options in the U.S. that are within the subsidy rules as you've established them. So again, I think we're quite shocked that you've created a program where Canadian taxpayer dollars will benefit the American auto sector. It's quite simple. Do you agree that that is ethical, given what they're doing to our auto sector?
Well, because the reality is we have auto manufacturers from the U.S. here in Canada. We have GM in Oshawa. We do. We have also Stellantis in Windsor. We also have Ford in Oakville. So we want to make sure that we keep their footprint, unless the Conservatives are against the footprint of these jobs, which are around 10,000 jobs.
Just vous deux, just a moment, just one moment, please.
Both of you, please. I have a number of MPs who are telling me there's a problem with the interpretation because two people are speaking at once.
Madame Dancho, when I have found the minister's answer to go a little bit longer, I've got 1 minute 40 remaining. So as I mentioned at the outset, this is about fairness. We want quality answers. Minister, I'll afford you about 20 seconds to respond to that, Madame Dancho. I'll then go back to you. And again, if I see there's a lack of equality, I'll pause the clock in order to afford you that time that remains. Minister, if you want to take about 20 seconds.
I think her colleague colleague, Mrs. Borelli from Windsor, would agree that the jobs also at Stellantis are important now that there's 3 shifts. So we need to make sure that we support auto workers here in Canada, including those working for U.S. companies. But at the same time, we need to make sure that GM and Stellantis would have reduced their auto production in Canada are on the hook. We're going after the money, and we're reducing their market access. This is what we're doing, Mr. President.
But again, you seem to be placing this as this is some sort of negotiating strategy. Again, this is a subsidy that's available to cars exclusively made in the United States.
In Canada.
If they're made in the United States, they're eligible for this subsidy. So that's not employing any Canadians if you're buying an American-made electric vehicle. It just seems very unethical to us that you would design a program. It'd be quite simple to say American vehicles are not eligible for this, given what they're doing to our auto sector. And I'm not quite sure why you're not taking that position. Perhaps you can elaborate.
Yes. So when we say we reduce their market access, we mean that they will be imposed tariffs. And when they will be imposed tariffs, of course, it will be higher than the $50,000 cap for vehicles. So when you say that we're actually subsidizing, no. The reality is we're supporting cars that will be lower than $50,000.
But that's not
and
correct.
Obviously, this will have an impact on vehicles coming from the U.S. that are linked to automakers reducing their footprint.
Okay. There's 20 seconds left, Madame Dancho. Make it concise, please. Minister, make your response concise, please, and then we will move on to the next
So
question.
you're going to give me 20 seconds?
Sure. I'm giving you 20 seconds.
Come on.
Again, this subsidy is accessible to American-made electric vehicles. We feel that that's deeply unethical given what the American administration is doing. I'm not satisfied with your answer, so I'm going to move the following motion, Mr. Chair.
We'll get back to the absurdity of Canadian federal politics in a moment. Just a friendly reminder to smash the like, hit subscribe. Please leave a comment below if you have something to share. Let's get back to the nutty video.
Your new strategy for automotive. And I know you think it's going to work to create investment in Canada and create new production of vehicles. And I honestly hope you're right, because we need that help. What I want to actually ask you about is giving EV subsidies to American-made vehicles. I spent the weekend speaking with unemployed auto workers in my riding who work at the Brampton facility. And when I explained to them that Canadian tax dollars were going to subsidize the purchase of American EVs after their plant closed. It was supposed to build the Jeep Compass. That production went to the United States. And now tax dollars are going to go to subsidize the purchase of American EVs. They were outraged. They were outraged because Donald Trump's declared an economic war on our auto sector, and they lost their jobs because of it. What do you have to say to those auto workers who I spoke to on the weekend about subsidizing American EVs?
Yeah.
Well, listen.
Just listen.
I've met with them months ago, and I've met with the Stellantis workers. Some of them were offered a job at Windsor, which I think is too far away, but to build the Dodge Charger, which will be supported by this new EV incentive. And we can be proud because the Dodge Charger just won the best car in North America at the Detroit Auto Show, which happened to be the place where President Trump was there. So Canadian-made EV, and we're very proud of that. I think also, Ontario auto mayors just tweeted that we welcome the auto strategy, the rebate program project to support more than 840,000 new EV purchases. It's good news. And the EV market already grown from 3.1% in 2019 to 15.4% in 2024.
With all due respect,
so that's really good news as well.
Minister, I'm going to give you, you're complete? Okay. And Mr. Seebeck, as I did with Madame Dancho, don't worry, I've paused the clock and I'm writing down how much time everyone's getting, so don't worry, we'll get through it. Mr. Seebeck, back to you with 3 minutes left.
with all due respect, Minister, you didn't answer the question. I know it's a difficult one, but could you please try and answer the specific question, which is, what do you say to Canadian auto workers who have lost their job because of Donald Trump's tariffs on Canadian autos, and that your government is going to subsidize the purchase of American EVs? I don't want to hear about the auto strategy. I just want to know, what do you say to them? Because they want to know. They asked me to ask this question. What do you say to them that Canadian tax dollars are going to subsidize the purchase of American vehicles?
Well, when I spoke with the auto workers, what they told me is that they really were happy with the auto strategy because it brings predictability to a sector that is under attack by the U.S. administration. And so when I tell them we need to embrace electrification because that's where the rest of the world is going and we will be leapfrogging the American industry, they're saying, yes, I agree. And when I say to them, you know what, in the 80s, when the U.S. auto plants were closing, we decided to bring in the Japanese automakers, and at this point, they're 77% of our production. They're like, yes, I agree. And meanwhile, what I say to them is, we need to make sure that we at least keep the U.S. automakers in Canada, for those who are still here, to make sure that we keep the jobs of your colleagues. And in exchange, we will be able, if they reduce their production, to reduce their market access, and therefore they won't have access to the EV incentives. They say to me, you know what, Minister, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, no one that I spoke
I can give
to
you
this
names
weekend.
of those I talked to.
Well, you should update them that, because I don't think you told them that American EVs would be eligible for this subsidy, because when I told Canadian auto workers, they were outraged. You spoke about the Dodge Charger. Do you know how many Dodge Chargers were sold in Canada last year that would be eligible for this? You probably don't, but I do. It's 600. Okay, so 600 vehicles are going to be eligible in Canada. Did you also hear that Stellantis is discontinuing its production of the Pacifica EV? They've put that statement out. So the vast majority of these subsidies are going to go to foreign countries, including the United States, with a president who's declared war on our auto industry. I don't know how you justify that. You can change it right. You can say, you know what, we made a mistake. American EVs are not eligible until the trade war is over. Why won't you do that?
There's something I don't understand with the Conservatives' point of view on industrial policy linked to the auto sector. Is why are you against electrification?
Melanie Jolie doesn't understand, gang. Let's find
You
out
were against
why.
EV mandates, okay, we got rid of them, but we want to make sure that we increase, we want to reduce the GHG emissions and align ourselves more to Europe. But that's
Donald Trump, Canadian taxpayer dollars for vehicles.
It's more ideological than that.
Thank you, Mr. Seebeck.
So fundamentally, there's something that I don't understand, because it is about embracing where basically the change is happening in the sector. It is about making sure that we can build the best cars in the world for the world. It is to stop to be a hostage of our geography and be able to export around the world. It is about also addressing the real affordability issue at a time where people want to invest in new and buy new vehicles, but they need a bit of help. So everybody's in favor of auto strategy, including the EV incentives. Only the Conservatives are against that.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Seebeck.
Canadian federal politics are absurd.
Your government voted it down. So let's set the record straight who really is obstructing their own legislation. It is not the Conservative Party of Canada. Shameful.
Paper Tiger Gary Edisongere is in the hot seat with Larry Brock. Let's check it out.
Minister, you took exception to my colleague Ms. Vienne's characterization of your communication with your tenant. You said essentially that it was taken out of context without allowing her to continue that line of questioning. So I'm going to correct the record and maybe refresh your memory, because I got a transcript. You had a conversation with your tenant, and tenant reminds you, Gary, but we're not the problem, Gary. Gary, I realize that. Gary, if I were to redo this from the beginning, like I'm picking up where it was left off, Gary, listen, I told you if I were to redo this from scratch, I would have a very different approach to this. Tenant, we're talking about Canada. It's a federal. It's not provincial. Gary, I get it. Quebec is in a different place than other parts of Canada, right? And this is something that very much a big, big, big deal for many of the Quebec electorate that voted for us, right? And that's one of the major things. I think I'm sure you've seen these articles where people said, this is one of the things we should not execute, like as a change from Trudeau's policies, but we've made the decision to go ahead. This was all political. Minister, this has got nothing to do with public safety. Law enforcement has consistently told you that from coast to coast to coast, and I would dare say probably in private discussions with the RCMP that they have told you that the problem...
this is going to get pretty heated, I think.
Facing Canadians and victims, particularly women, are not lawful gun holders, but those criminals, those thugs who have easy access to illegal stolen firearms that are pouring into our country. You knew that. You explained that to your tenant. So don't lecture my colleague for saying something out of context. This is something you said. And your points are well taken that this was a political maneuver. This is not going to make people safe. Now, if we're talking to a victim, a woman in particular, who lived under a rock for the last 10 years and listened to your 5-minute opening statement, she would awaken and she would say, wow, am I ever blessed to live in one of the safest, if not the safest countries in the world. And you know, Minister, statistically that does not bear that out. So do you have a comment about the fact that your rhetoric does not match the statistics that have been growing literally every single year since the Liberals took power in 2015? What are you going to tell those victims?
Let me first at the outset, Mr. Brock,
Gary is just a whatever. Let me know in the chat room. Like, what do you think of Gary? Peeper Tiger?
Tell you that when I indicated that I would have done it differently does not mean I will scrap the program. I would have designed it differently. It's a very different set of facts that you're putting forward. Having said that, look, there is a real issue of intimate partner violence in Canada. I'm not underplaying that. I recognize this. I've been to funerals. I've had people in my community who have died because of intimate partner violence. I continue to monitor and see the deep impact that intimate partner violence has in our society. And my responsibility, Mr. Brock, and our responsibility collectively is to ensure the safety and security of Canadians, not rhetoric. So essentially,
I've got to say, like, congratulations to the public relations coach that Gary Adesangre was assigned, because they did do a good job. He's much more aggressive in your face, like finger back at you. Because it wasn't long ago, like 8 months ago, he was weak as hell.
If I may,
my time, Minister.
You had quite a bit of time,
Minister. My time.
Excuse me. I would say it was quite a long question. I'll give the Minister 15 seconds to finish.
Okay, so let's work together. And that is my point here. Let us work together. I think what you're misconstruing my opening statements with, you're not reflecting the other work that we're doing in order to address
Minister, I'm moving on. Another theme that you brought up in response to Ms. Cody, that your government consistently...
Like not to get into the psychology of it, but you see it right there. Larry knew that his point was being defeated. Like, to these numbskulls that think that these Liberals have any interest in your future, besides, like, what you're worth now to them, and then they collect your land. But Larry had to cut him off. Like, it's not like the Conservatives are winning. That's the whole thing. I don't mean to be a downer, but the Conservatives are
brings
winning.
Up day after day after day.
The arguments are winning, but like for timeshare...
Is accusing the Conservative Party of obstructing criminal bail and sentencing legislation. I don't know where you were at 1:30 this morning, but I was in this building passing Bill C-14. We sat for 9.5 consecutive hours to make this a priority. I then wanted to make a priority of Bill C-16 to get rid of the Jordan issue, to deal with mandatory minimum penalties, to strengthen offenses dealing with intimate partner violence, and every attempt that we brought motion after motion to deal with Bill C-16 as a priority, your government voted it down. So let's set the record straight who really is obstructing their own legislation. It is not the Conservative Party of Canada. You had 7.5 months to bring forward critical legislation to make a difference in the lives of intimate partner violent victims, and you waited literally to the last minute to introduce legislation, and now you're delaying it. Shameful.
That's your time.
Smash the like, hit subscribe, get your Canadian federal politics right here. Aaron, Canadian Looney.
Mr. Brock, to you for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, you were in the back of the room when your colleague was questioned by this committee. I had raised questions regarding your meetings with provincial and territorial counterparts. The question I'm going to put up front and then the justification to follow is what steps are you and your government taking to restore trust and confidence that is sadly lacking by intimate partner victims in this country, particularly women who feel that we don't have a justice system, we have a legal system. There's a lack of trust and confidence in policing. And when substantive charges on the 810 issue, when substantive charges, whether they be assault, whether they be threatening, whether they be mischief related of a domestic context, are simply withdrawn and with an urging to accept an 810 resolution with zero enforcement and zero consequences contributes to that lack of trust. Will you commit to ensuring national standards right across this province with your provincial and territorial attorney generals to ensure that their Crown policy manual sets out a basic direction as to handle domestic related cases and a direction with respect to under what circumstances will a charge be withdrawn in favor of a Section 810 charge and what instructions you'll give for enforcement under 811?
Thank you for the question. I've got less than 1 minute, so I won't have time to answer this.
This gangly goof is from Nova Scotia. I'm from Nova Scotia. We went to the same university. I've heard his reputation. He's a couple of years younger than me, but not many. Anyways, Sean Fraser is a bully and a jerk off.
Systemic trust preamble that you've put to me on this.
And Attorney General of Canada. Minister of Justice.
Specific question of provincial collaboration on 810 and violations under 811. It strikes me as a good idea, but I would need to have conversations with my provincial counterparts, and I would need to do a deeper study, having only had this put to me when my colleague received the question. The one caveat that I would put to that is I would want to insist, whenever you're dealing with criminal remedies, as you would well appreciate, Larry, they're highly fact-dependent and individualistic. To the extent we can ensure there's the ability for the court to have remedies that fit the facts of a given case, which will adjust. I do think guidelines and consistency across the country is generally a good thing, but I would certainly demand the opportunity to engage with my provincial counterparts before I broadcast in a live meeting that I'm going to do something that I have not consulted on.
Thank you, Minister.
Wonderful.
Canada's broken, and Canada's broken because we're stupid. Okay? Canada's broken because we're stupid.
I still think that it would be helpful for Canadians to know exactly what you would do when it comes to tariffs. So why are you being so reticent to talk about that?
Because I'm a good negotiator. I have negotiated a number of situations in the past. I know how to manage crises.
How many kids did you molest Jeffrey Epstein?
Question? Who cares? I mean, it's a detail.
These are Muslim values. These are Canadian values.
I don't know.
Society, and he doesn't trust free people to make their own decisions. That's something that colors a lot of his writing, a lot of his speeches, that, you know, people like him should run things. You know, he's a very fancy person. You know, he's hobnobbed with the rich and famous. He likes being in fancy rooms where they wear tuxedos and know which fork to use for the salad and the fish.
Prominent people that were part of these HSBC Swiss accounts that had been inherited from Safra. Epstein was one.
So yeah, good day, everybody. Aaron, Canadian Looney, we're just having fun rolling through some fun videos that I've collected. That's it, mostly about Canadian federal politics. Everything kinda has to do with Canadian federal politics, doesn't it? Anyways, we're going to keep rolling. Smash the like, hit subscribe. That's it. We'll just keep rolling.
One of them,
That's the best idea.
some associates of Epstein, like Flavio Briatore, are there. But also, HSBC was laundering money for drug cartels. And who didn't go after them when they were in charge of the Bank of England? Mark Carney.
Aaron, Canadian Looney, smash the like, hit subscribe. Please leave a comment below. Get your Canadian federal politics right here. Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
Ways in different parts of our
I
country.
pay carbon tax on the electricity and the equipment and the fertilizer that I use to run my farm. And you say that's imaginary?
I would love to see how you're breaking that down, but what I am telling you...
With real dollars.
Gang, what's up? Aaron here, Canadian Looney. Smash that like, hit subscribe. Let's get straight into the absurdity of Canadian federal politics. This video is outrageous. Let's kick it off.
Thank you, Minister, for finally appearing. I see that you're found time to be at the Finance Committee on October 20th, but took your time to get here. Minister, the recent MOU signed with Alberta suggested the immediate suspension of the clean electricity regulations. It wasn't in the Gazette this weekend. When will it come into effect?
Okay, so the clean electricity regulations are in effect now, but only begin applying in 2035. They were intentionally given as a long tail for all provinces and territories to be able to work towards
2035?
Yeah, if you look at the way the regulation is drafted, in 2035, that is when they begin to apply.
When will it be published?
So what I'm saying is, in the Memorandum of Understanding, the wording is that I have with the province of Alberta, or we have with the province of Alberta until April 1st to negotiate an agreement where they can show that they have a pathway to meet the objectives of the regulation.
Okay, so all of this is still under heavy negotiation?
It's right in, I can read you the exact wording of the agreement.
So we should presume no elements of this MOU will survive or could survive, or everything is up for negotiation?
What I would tell you is that with all provinces, I have the ability to negotiate a pathway to meet the objectives of a regulation. And I think it's a really amazing thing that Alberta is going to sit down and do that negotiation.
So you suggested earlier in your opening remarks that there was a climate cost of food, yet the industrial carbon tax is still applied to fertilizer production, grain drying, farm equipment, etc. And you've made great speeches in the House to the effect that this is not a tax, has no impact on food prices. Isn't that an oxymoron? I mean, like that's ridiculous. You say there's a cost of food for all these other things, but yet you're taxing the means of production of food, and it doesn't impact the price at the grocery store. Can you explain that, please?
Yeah, I mean, I can even provide the studies to this committee if you want.
She's a wild child. Like, seriously, tree hugger extraordinaire. Like, oh my God, she'll rob your wallet. Watch out for this woman.
Absolutely. There are studies time and time again, in fact, that say that the industrial carbon price does not increase the cost of food.
So then what does it impact? Is it just impact the viability of farms, and so farms get smaller?
No, it does. It's actually...
So farms consolidate to bigger farms?
Small farms aren't impacted by the industrial carbon price.
They're not impacted by it also.
Small farms aren't impacted by the carbon price. Do they pay a carbon price?
The carbon taxes that I'm paying as a producer are what, imaginary?
The industrial carbon price applies to large industry. It applies in different ways in different parts of our country.
I pay carbon tax on the electricity and the equipment and the fertilizer that I use to run my farm. And you say that's imaginary?
I would love to see how you're breaking that down, but what I am telling you...
With real dollars.
You wouldn't have a line, sir, that says anywhere industrial carbon price.
Because it's hidden, yeah, but the price has gone up on everything.
It's not that. I'm just saying, I don't see where you're seeing it.
Minister, to the next question, are you constitutionally impaired from saying the word oil pipeline?
She's anti-Alberta. Like, again, I don't want Alberta to separate. I live in the East. I don't want Alberta to separate. I can understand why they would want to. I really get that. Like, I lived in Alberta. I love it out there, but I might move out there if they do separate.
Not. That's actually a very funny question. Does it matter to you if what words I use?
I appreciate the
not?
hilarity of it. You know, you said that there was a lot of discussion about the pipeline, but pipeline is a binary thing. It's either we build a pipeline or we don't. There's no middle ground. Do you support a pipeline?
I support our provinces working.
They dance around words
together if they want to work together. No, but that is what the Memorandum of Understanding with Alberta
Ultimately,
is about.
it leads to a pipeline or no pipeline, one or the other. Do you support a pipeline?
I support that if the provinces and the Indigenous peoples are in agreement, that then there is a pathway to actually make that happen. But I am
Make
not
what
going
happen?
For a pipeline. But
Thank
what
you
I'm
very
saying,
much, Minister.
but I think it's really important.
They don't show this stuff on CBC News, though, do they? People should know that their environmental minister is a crooked nut. But they don't.
They don't override Indigenous peoples'
CBC
agreement, and I would not override the province of British Columbia, which is what the Conservatives say they would do.
So the province of British Columbia has a veto?
The Prime Minister has been clear.
The Prime Minister has sole responsibility under the
MOU. What in the hell does that even Memorandum of Understanding? Give me a break.
Well,
how much progress has that pipeline or any pipelines made under this government?
And C5.
You are repeating again the Conservative line that you would override the provinces and Indigenous people.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. There's a lot of interrupting. I think it would be nice to give ample time to respond to questions.
Appreciate the point.
These liberal tactics are weak.
Prime Minister has been clear, and he said it in the House of Commons, that there needs to be agreement from the province of British Columbia and of Indigenous peoples, and we're not going to override the jurisdiction of our provinces, and we're not going to override the rights of Indigenous rights holders.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I don't know what to say, gang. Canadian politics are absurd. Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics. If you've enjoyed this video, smash the like, hit subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. That's it. Check out one of our other videos floating around here. We've got a great playlist. Another great video to watch. CAC journalist in his place. He's relentlessly pushing the liberal propaganda machine forward. Melissa Lanthman won't be having any of that. She's going to put this loser in his place. Let's take a peek.
Conservative Party leader, Melissa Lanthman. Mr. Lanthman, good to see you. Thanks for coming in today. You've agreed to fast-track this motion, even though you criticized it today, saying it won't really help that much, and all of the spending is going to add to inflation.
Yeah, well, certainly. Well, you've got almost $12.5 billion of new inflationary debt. That's after a budget was just put on the table. This is unaccounted for spending. So there's no doubt that that's going to have an impact on the rising cost of everything, as more spending always does. But
so why vote for inflation then?
So the criticism here is that this is the exact same thing. It was that same finance minister when he was industry minister just 3 years ago made the same announcement. Actually, he summoned grocery store CEOs. He told everybody that he would increase competition and the grocery prices would stabilize. And that didn't happen. In fact, we have the highest grocery inflation in the G7. We have 2.2 million people using a food bank in a single month. So we're not going to stand in the way of the minimal relief that hungry people will get. But we're not enthusiastic about it. Again, we're not going to stand in the way.
But if the bigger consequence is, as you say, this is a deficit spending initiative, and it is the deficit, the Conservatives hold, that is driving food inflation.
David Cochrane is off on stress leave.
How can you vote for inflation when you've...
He should be stressed. That dude shouldn't be able to go to the grocery store the way that he's been a traitor to Canadians that pay attention.
This for years.
Here's the thing. If somebody gave you a $10 coupon when you walked into the grocery store, would you not take it?
Yeah.
Of course you would. But that doesn't really get to the crux of the problem, and it doesn't really do much for most people, who, by the way, won't get this, on a $300 grocery tab. Our suggestion is to do this and bring forward the solutions that we've talked about. Getting rid of the industrial carbon tax, the excessive food packaging taxes that end up about $1 billion, which is passed down to the consumer, the fuel standard, which is 17 cents a liter on gas. Those things would actually reduce and reduce spending.
But, there's a lot of economic analysis, and I'm looking at a report here from the TD Bank talking about why food inflation is higher here versus the United States. And there's a bunch of issues on specific things, like meat is being affected by a drought from like 4 or 5 years ago. But the U.S. grows most of its own fruit and vegetables. We import more than half of our fruits and vegetables from the U.S. So the weak Canadian dollar, buying in U.S., selling in Canadian, these are reasons why it's higher here rather than deficit spending.
It doesn't account for why our food inflation is the highest. There are lots of other countries in the G7 that import much of their food, and we're 2 times higher.
Japan's is higher than ours, and the UK is
we're the highest. Our inflation growth is the highest in the G7 right now. So it doesn't really account for why we are half or why ours is double the U.S. Like, we've got enough food to feed ourselves and feed the world. We've got some farmers, we've got smart people. I think we're squandering our potential and our resources, and we want to bring solutions to the table. We've done that. We're going to do that tomorrow again with a motion in the House, and we hope that the government will take some of this and start to look at the factors that will reduce food costs in this country.
Right. I mean, the analysis from TD Bank and others, though, is like the blame for the government in food inflation over the past year would be the 25% retaliatory tariffs on the U.S. Those affected things coming in. The currency is a challenge, transportation costs, the concentration of our grocery sector versus the U.S., and the lack of fruit and vegetable production here.
This is a minister who, again, summoned those CEOs. They said that they would increase competition. He said that food...
That's a good one. Melissa Landsman is one of my favorites to watch. And David Cochrane getting whooped by Melissa Landsman is one of my favorite things to watch. We'll get into this.
We are not alone. We have with us a mighty Savior who gives us strength, Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank you.
That's your job, and you're not doing it. You are a bad minister.
We are doing our job, and you're a bad performer. Perhaps you should go back to performance.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Chair. Minister, the Supreme Court recently ruled in the Kanyenda ruling that pending asylum claimants in Quebec, many of whom illegally crossed the border at Roxham Road with your government's blessing, have the constitutional right to taxpayer-funded daycare. Do you affirm Quebec's right to use the notwithstanding clause in this specific case should it choose to do so?
Thank you for that question. I know that the government and the Minister of Justice is seized with that particular case, and they will have more to say on that. It's not in my purview as the immigration minister.
It is, though. I mean, experts are saying that ruling is likely to overturn your copay for luxury health benefits for failed asylum claimants. Have you told the Justice Minister that he should probably get on this?
So thanks again for that question. I believe what we have introduced with the copay and the changes that we're making, I believe they're fair and that they're sustainable and are done with the best intention of protecting the asylum or the people that really need the health care, but also protecting.
But just like the CBC reported that you don't talk to your colleagues. So did you tell the Justice Minister that this was a problem?
Again, the Justice Department and the Justice Minister is seized with legal cases and
did you go,
constitutional
hey, Sean,
cases.
this is a problemo? Like, have you talked to him yet?
Again, the changes that we propose to the system, we believe are fair and balanced.
I know you don't answer questions and like salad. We established that last time. The CBC reported that there's 2.1 million temporary residents.
Hold time. Mr. Zubair, point of order.
It was myself, actually.
Oh,
that's fine.
Mr.
No
Fragiscato,
problem.
sorry, you both sound alike.
We need to hear the answers, and there's a decorum that we all should abide by.
For the record, I would like to put it on the record that it was, in fact, the minister who introduced Tabouleh at this committee before. So she introduced that as fair game.
Thank you, Mr. Fragiscatos. We do want to maintain decorum and order. Ms. Rempel-Garner, continue with your question.
So, Minister, the CBC reported that there's about 2.1 million temporary residents who'll be left in Canada with expiring visas by the end of this year. There's probably about 500,000 undocumented persons on top of that. But even with the Auditor General's findings, you're going to issue another 215,000 foreign work permits of one sort or another this year. Why are you doing that, even though we know most of these millions of citizens won't leave the country involuntarily? Like, that seems kind of crazy to me. Like, why are you bringing in 200,000 more people when we have a really big youth jobs crisis to fill them with low-skilled foreign labor?
So we are aware of the numbers of temporary resident documents that are scheduled to expire each year. Couple of things. Some individuals with expiring documents might hold multiple permits. It could be study, it could be work. Clearly, though, people who have expired permits are expected to leave. Even your leader has said that last week.
Yeah, but the problem
so
is
I think,
you're not letting them.
No one should
bringing
stay
in more
here
people
longer than legally allowed.
No.
Point
Ms.
of order.
Rempel-Garner, you guys keep censoring me in
Miss,
this committee.
Miss
This is my
Rempel-Garner,
time.
no one is censoring you. What
You
I'd like
are.
to tell you, Miss Rempel-Garner, please, at the beginning I said, please do not talk over each other. Very hard for our translators to translate two people at the same time.
Yes.
Kindly allow the answer to happen, and then we'll... yes, Ms. Rempel-Garner.
The witness is obfuscating. She's trying to run the clock because she doesn't have answers to why she's letting her colleague Patty kowtow to Tim Horton workers.
That's not a point of order, Ms.
thank you.
Rempel-Garner.
All right. On
So
that point.
There you go, Ms. Rempel. Yes, Mr. Zuberi, point of order.
Thank you for giving space to all of us to raise the points of order and to the witness for giving the time. On a number
This
of
is not a point of order. This is debate.
Just a reminder, gang, smash the like, hit subscribe. We work really hard at this stuff. Let's get back to the video.
Zuberi, not a point of
Do I have
order.
the floor?
No. Like, enough
Chair?
of this.
Mr. Zuberi, it's not a point of order.
I was about to get to my point of order.
Okay, please get to your point of order, Mr.
No,
Zuberi.
this is my time, and this is now
your,
debate.
Your clock is stopped, Ms. Rempel-Garner. Mr. Zuberi.
On more than one occasion in this round, the witness was not able to complete her answer and her sentence. She was interrupted mid-sentence, and I hope that we can actually hear.
This is not a point of order.
This
Is
thank you,
point
Mr.
of order on
Thank
my
you, Mr.
privilege.
Zuberi.
The Liberals
And thank
on
you,
this
Ms.
committee
Rempel-Garner.
are continue to every member of this committee, because the minister is weak. The CBC reported that
not a point of order.
This
Thank
is,
you.
My privilege is being violated.
Tell us what you think, Michelle Rempel-Garner. Unleashed.
Not a point of order.
Because you guys keep censoring me. Why don't you just
Ms.
let her fail,
Rempel-Garner,
as you guys
Ms.
talk to the
Rempel-Garner,
CBC about?
Ms. Rempel-Garner, thank you. That is, I
So
want to maintain
embarrassing
order
on behalf of
and
the Liberals.
decorum. You are not being censored. I'm going to start the clock now if you want to continue with your questions.
Did you tell your colleague Patty to take a flying leap when she said that Tim Hortons should get more temporary foreign workers after the jobs numbers came out last week? Like, why aren't those jobs going to Canadian workers? And why are you guys kowtowing to Tim Hortons?
Michelle Rempel-Garner kind of has a bad reputation, like as far as the uneducated go, and they all think that she's some WEF, like conservative inside hack. That is not the case. If you would follow her at all, you'd learn a lot. She's a wild one. She's a cowgirl.
So lovely performance as usual, Madame. Thank you for the question. We have a letter from many Conservative members who have written to me and to Minister Haidu and to another minister of requesting those changes. In fact, pleading that they require those changes.
That's right.
In their province.
They were pleading to end the temporary foreign worker program and replace it with a standalone program for agriculture.
Absolutely not the case.
No, it is, and I know for a fact.
Absolutely not the case. You were not copied on those letters.
I was, and I saw them, and now you're misleading the committee. Would you like me to read that to you, or would you like to say that that was a performance too? Look, I get it. Your colleagues have to cover for you. They go to the CBC to say they can't talk to you. You don't talk to your colleagues and the ministers about serious issues like this. That's a problem.
Rempel-Garner is a shark.
So I'm going to ask you this. You were supposed to be here for 2 hours today. Why are you leaving at the 1 hour mark? Is it because you can't handle basic questions like this? Like, why aren't you fighting for Canadian kids' jobs?
That's exactly what we do day in, day out. I fight for them as the minister. The government is fighting for them.
Diab is a flounder.
I say to you, it's best that you start fighting with them as well.
Flatfish.
No, point of order. I understand that my colleague wants the minister's job, but he's over-talking her
Ms.
now.
Rempel-Garner,
like, oh my God.
Ms. Rempel-Garner, please calm down. Mr. Fragiscato's point of order.
Members have time to ask questions. Of course, I respect that. But
you overtalked the minister.
Ms. Rempel-Garner, please allow the point of order.
We should focus, of course, on policy and not turn this into personal issues.
Thank you.
No, this is not a point of order. This is Liberal ministers trying
not a point of order.
You guys are eating my time up because this woman can't answer basic questions on her file.
Ms. Rempel-Garner, please calm down. We have stopped your time.
Don't tell a woman to calm down. That's very sexist.
Please, Ms. Rempel-Garner.
It's ridiculous.
Would you like to finish? You have 39 seconds.
I can't imagine.
Ms. Rempel-Garner, did you want to continue with your questions?
Yeah, I'm on it. I mean,
okay. Thank you.
I understand why your colleagues, Lena, went to the CBC and said that you don't take questions and that they don't like you and think you're doing a bad job. Because you need people to interject over top of you to answer basic questions. You should do better. You should tell Patty not to kowtow to Tim Hortons. You should tell Sean to not allow judges to give leniency to non-citizen criminals. That's your job, and you're not doing it. You are a bad minister.
We are doing our job, and you're a bad performer. Perhaps you should go back to performance.
Thank you.
The nation of Canada has been suppressed on purpose. Its population is being killed off by the state through its assisted suicide program, and its population is changing through mass immigration against the will of the population. So that country is being held down on purpose. And my question is, by whom and why? You mentioned Canada. Most Americans don't even know the capital of Canada. Canada does not appear on their radar, doesn't figure in their thoughts. But you described it as probably, quote, probably the richest country in the world. I think that's objectively true. And yet Canada is not a rich country. In fact, it's getting poorer. Its life expectancy is declining. Its GDP is declining. And that's on purpose. The nation of Canada has been suppressed on purpose. Its population is being killed off by the state through its assisted suicide program, and its population is changing through mass immigration against the will of the population. So that country is being held down on purpose. And my question is, by whom and why?
Canada's broken because we're stupid.
Sure, that's a great question. And this is something that I struggle with all the time because I am a Canadian citizen. I went to school there. My answer is that Canada was never really a nation state. It's more of a glorified resource colony for the British, the city of London. And the reality is now that the British are under a lot of strain, the city of London is under a lot of financial pressure. It sees places like Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. And what do you do if you have financial issues? Well, you do corporate restructuring, right? You change the middle management, right? And historically, the British got along very well with the Indian elite, right? They went into India and stole trillions of dollars from the Indians, and the Indian elite were perfectly happy to help them, right? So why not use the same model for Australia, for Canada? So, there are millions of Indians who've immigrated to Canada in the past 5 years, and it's put a lot of strain on the Canadian economy because housing prices have exploded, and so ordinary Canadians can no longer afford to buy a house. And it's put tremendous pressure on the Canadian welfare system, on the Canadian economy. And you would think that the proper strategy would have a moratorium where they're like, you know what, we've had too many immigrants and we need to close the borders and absorb these immigrants because we want to ensure that these immigrants have proper housing. They have decent jobs, right? You would think that that'd be the right strategy.
Yes.
And instead, Mark Carney goes to India and says, we want more Indians. And also, we'll give you scholarships to come to Canada to study for free. Meanwhile, there are a lot of Canadians who are homeless, who are unemployed, and who cannot put food on the table. But hey, we want more Indians. So if it's not corporate restructuring, if it's not trying to asset strip Canada, I really don't understand the strategy for this.
Well, I mean, it's a kind of genocide, right, against Canadians, people whose ancestors built the country. But you wonder what the purpose is. Like, this is because it is happening all over the West, all over the English-speaking world, in the white countries. And it's not an accident. It's not organic. So it's a big picture, that spans from Australia to Ottawa.
Oh, yeah. Gang, we're going to flip over to CBC now and check out the Auditor General revealing some real reasons why Canada's failing. Let's take a peek.
Here to tell us more is Auditor General Karen Hogan. Thanks for coming on. Nice to see you.
Thanks for inviting me.
So your report raises some serious questions, I think, about the international student.
All right, gang. We are going to change to something quite a bit different. And this is like mid-show. We've been grooving along. I'm going to try something different now. I've got a few videos here lined up, and let me know in the chat or
I think it is
in the
extraordinary
comments.
that Mark Carney has become the Prime Minister of Canada.
You give me a couple of moments, we'll get this set up the right way. So we want that, we want that, we want that. And this is it. We're going to just flip through some videos from X.
Fuck off. Get the fuck out of here, you losers. Get out of here. Get out of my neighborhood, you fucks.
That doesn't sound...
Protecting them from me. I can't even heckle them in my neighborhood. I live in this building, dude. Get these people out of here. Come on, guys. Get these people out of here. That's your job.
That's your car? I know. Are you leaving? Yeah, I will like a half an hour ago. Okay, thank you. That's your car?
Dark economic clouds gathering when we look right across the board. You were asking about the top issues of concern. Check it out. In the last 4 weeks, jobs in the economy has jumped 6 percentage points as the top national issue of concern. It's at around 23%, followed by concern about Trump in the U.S. at 12, inflation at 11, healthcare at 8, immigration at 5, and peace at around 4. But, the big takeaway here is that is a significant increase. It speaks to the pressure that our Canadians are under to pay for the groceries. And now,
of low points. You could trip over your shoelaces and be sitting in my chair tomorrow, and the next thing you know, a doctor's going to come in and tell you that your life is not worth living and that you're a non-contributing member of society, not once, not twice, but 3 times. That's not okay.
You said one thing which I give you a lot of praise, and I'm proud of you for saying, which is it's not like I didn't think about death, because that's a very honest way of saying that it's not like it didn't cross my mind. We all have low points. I can't imagine what that low point was, but then to be offered it 3 times, assisted suicide, when you're not thinking about that, when that's not your way out, is so heinous.
So you know what? Put me on a stage and let me tell my story so that other people don't become me, or that other people aren't forced to be told.
My kid from pre-K into kindergarten, I need a vaccine slip, birth certificate, and proof of residency so I can get him into school. But y'all are saying a fucking ID is too much to vote? Fuck off.
ਜੀ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਰਜਾਈਨਾ ਸਸਕੈਚੁਅਨ ਚ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਔਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਰਸੀਐਮਪੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਵਾਲੇ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਅਫਸਰ ਬਣਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਅਸੀਂ 12 ਅਪ੍ਰੈਲ ਨੂੰ ਰਜਾਈਨਾ ਗੁਰੂ ਘਰੇ 10 ਵਜੇ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ 1 ਵਜੇ ਤੱਕ ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਜਸਵਿੰਦਰ ਕੁਮਰਾਹ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੋਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ 1-2 ਜਣੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਹੋਰ ਹੋਣੇ ਆ ਅਸੀਂ ਰਿਕਰੂਟਿੰਗ ਇਵੈਂਟ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਜੋ ਜਸਵਿੰਦਰ ਆਰਗੇਨਾਈਜ਼ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਆ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਕੁਐਸਚਨਸ ਹੋਵੇ ਮੈਂ ਜਸਵਿੰਦਰ ਦੱਸੂਗਾ ਮੋਰਾ
ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਹੋਵੇ ਕੋਈ ਹਾਇਰਿੰਗ ਲਈ ਪ੍ਰੋਸੈਸ ਲਈ ਕੋਈ ਟ੍ਰੇਨਿੰਗ ਲਈ ਵੀ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਆ ਤੇ ਕੀ ਬੈਨੀਫਿਟਸ ਨੇ ਫਿਊਚਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪੁਲਿਸਿੰਗ ਲਾਈਫ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਦੀ ਆ ਤੇ ਹਰੇਕ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਲਈ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਹੋਵਾਂਗੇ ਅਮਰਜੋਤ ਹੋਊਗਾ ਤੇ ਹੋਰ ਆਪਣੇ ਸਾਥੀ ਹੋਣਗੇ ਤੇ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਹੋਣਗੇ we'll answer that ਤੇ 10 ਵਜੇ ਪਹੁੰਚੋ ਉੱਥੇ ਤੇ bring your questions and come see us
This spring could see the start of Chinese-made EVs arriving in Canada. What can consumers expect, and how do they stack up against Canadian weather? We've got CAA's Julie Buin, who recently joined the world's largest EV winter test drive in Norway to find out, and she joins us this morning to share some of the results. Good morning to you,
Good
Julie.
morning.
How timely is this? I mean, Canada is about to accept just over 49,000 Chinese EVs into the market this spring. So this test, this trip that you went on might have been quite revealing. So tell us about the trip to Norway.
So our sister club in Norway, Norge Automobile Forg,
Sponsored by the car company and the government. Come on.
Mr. Gallagher, why did you ask if my car was in park if it didn't matter? You asked me if my car was in park, and I answered in the affirmative, and then you said it didn't matter. Why ask the question?
This isn't the place for that. It's court. You take your court. This is where you can take the ticket.
No, but you asked that question, and if it's irrelevant, then why would you ask it?
It's just a question.
Okay, then. Can you answer my question why you allowed calls for genocide, and you don't...
I love David Menzies. He's an inspiration.
Enforce Section 319 of the Criminal Code?
He's kind of weird, but he's awesome.
This often contentious subject in the news of why the United States supports Israel. I must come clean. I am not a Christian Zionist. I support Israel for one reason. It is in the interest of my country and the United States. Now, why would that be? I'd like to return to this often contentious subject in the news of why the United States supports Israel. I must come clean. I am not a Christian Zionist. I feel I'm a Christian, but I have no special advocacy to support Israel because it's a biblical home of the Jews and by extension the Judeo-Christian traditions of which I am a member. And I can even confess as a rural resident who grew up and isolated on a farm, I don't recall anybody being Jewish, and I had never met anybody Jewish till I was 18 years old when I went to the University of California campus at Santa Cruz. And for the first time in my life, I met somebody who said he was Jewish. So I don't come to this issue with any particular...
What I don't understand, gang, is why the Jewish people, which are less than 2% of the world's population, have such a huge impact on so many things that we take in our just social construct. Like, it's weird. I think, I don't know, I grew up on the inside or the outside of some fishbowl. I'm not sure. Look at this. Whoa, this is crazy. No, come on. I don't know about all that, guys. I don't know about all that. Here's a question. We'll change topics. How did many in Canada end up hating a guy, Poilievre, with a gay father, married a refugee, and came from home? But they, yeah, it's a good question, but they do. That's the thing. Like, conservatives can't just punch the ground and be like, oh, we're upset and we're going to change things. Somehow we've got to reach those people that don't want to be reached. Which is very many of the voting pool that they have is dying off. And that's why they're in a race to get all these crazy things done. Oh, it's wild.
Is not
an interchangeable word with being a Republican. They are two different things. They really are. I mean, Lindsey Graham is not a conservative.
I know you've had your beefs with
Oh,
him.
I can't stand him. He's a warmonger. He's one of the most disgusting people I've ever had the displeasure of sitting across a table from. He called me a conspiracy theorist in front of the President of the United States, yelling at me across a table, swishing his wine around his third glass of Chardonnay. And Tommy, I tore his arm off and beat him in the head with it, right in
What
front
was was
of the
Trump's
president.
reaction to that, by the way? Because
Trump?
he likes Lindsey Graham, and
Oh.
I don't really get it.
He said, I got through. We were talking about the vaccine because Trump had asked me, why are people booing me at my rallies when I bring up the vaccine?
Tommy Lauren, right? Like, who does?
I didn't want to talk about why I converted. I wanted to say it makes me sad when you guys say Americans should leave and go back to where they came from, because we're like, well, where should we go? We have nowhere to go.
Like, we're from. I didn't say you should get deported.
Well, yeah, no, he's always saying that, and you guys are always saying that. Like, go back to where you came from, go back. And we're like, where are we gonna go, dude? Back to Wisconsin?
You feel like any of your freedoms have been taken away since you converted to Islam?
Absolutely not. I'm way more free than I was before, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
In what ways?
And I'm definitely free to objectification.
Because like when I look at Islam, like from a woman's perspective, you seem to be happy
I chose
wearing
to
that.
wear this too.
But like,
my husband actually doesn't want me to wear it.
Really?
He asked me to
Like,
take
I
this
wouldn't
off.
want to wear that. You
He
know?
asked me to take this off all the time, and I'm like, no, dude, it's my choice.
Like, I'm not saying this is set up. I don't know, but this could be set up. Like, this is at least, it's not AI. People accuse my channel all the time of being AI. It's ridiculous. This isn't, but maybe this is set up. Do you guys think this is real?
And what made you want to wear that? Is that that's the hijab? Is that the hijab as well?
It's the niqab with the hijab, but it's because I'm like super beautiful and I don't want a bunch of dudes looking at me. No, I used to get hollered at all the time, seriously.
Really?
Yeah.
So now you don't get hollered at?
No, I don't, except for by Muslim haters. Different type of holler.
And what made you want to convert to Islam? Because I'm actually super curious because like you're seeing the rise of Islam in these towns, and we're going to do this documentary. So what made you convert to Islam?
So this is my mom, and she converted when I was really young, and I kind of just like did it with her. And so, I mean, I feel like my story is less of like a conversion story, but I'm super confident in my choice of being a Muslim, and I feel so happy to be this way because I feel like it just like gives me like a way to live, and I'm not just like one of these people. Like when people are like atheist and stuff, I feel like they just are like
sweet.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't like atheism.
All of our family.
Or
I didn't want to talk about why I converted. I wanted to say it makes me sad when you guys.
It's all an act. And here we go. Robert De Niro, who's one of my favorite actors, but watch this old nut go nuts.
A certain way. It's all out of insecurity. He's deeply
It's crazy.
insecure. He is a malignant narcissist. He's a socio-psychopath. He's created some new language as far as describing somebody in his mental condition. It's so frightening and scary. And
I loved Robert De Niro in so many movies, and still do. But man, I appreciate the actor, this political activist.
he's dangerous. We got to get rid of him.
Do you ever?
And shame on those Republicans that don't have the nerve, the balls to go after him. What do they tell their kids? What do they tell their grandkids later when it's written in history books what their role is and what they did, and they allowed him to do this. He's an outright criminal, and they're still buying it.
Sorry, I messed up. I got caught up in the video.
A cup of tea.
Yeah, exactly. Quite a few cups. Do you agree with the assessment around the election?
Yes, Mr. Carney does not want an election, but also he's got some key people talking to opposition parties. I'm told up to 10 MPs are still in discussion with liberal delegates from Mr. Carney's office. So there's still discussion going on. So they're still hoping to get more of opposition MPs from the.
It's pretty crazy. Oh, and check this out. Like, Who wants to go?
Even catfish, which feed on decaying matter, are dying from toxicity. Tons of waste, sewage, and funeral remnants are dumped daily,
India, right?
creating a chemical mix. Fecal bacteria and toxic elements exceed safe levels.
It would say if it was
Ash from cremations
AI,
floats
it
along the
should
riverbed,
ought to be
turning it
set
into a
next
breeding
to
ground
this.
for disease. Yet for millions, the Ganges remains a sacred life source. People bathe, drink, wash clothes, and perform rituals, believing it purifies souls and frees the dead from reincarnation. Despite the pollution, faith and tradition keep people tied to its banks.
We know about addiction is wrong. You get a rat and you put it in a cage and you give it 2 water bottles. One is just water and the other is water laced with either heroin or cocaine. If you do that, the rat will almost always prefer the drugged water and almost always kill itself quite quickly. In the 70s, Professor Alexander comes along and he looks at this experiment and he noticed something. He said, we're putting the rat in an empty cage. It's got nothing to do except use these drugs. Let's try something a bit different. So Professor Alexander built a cage that he called Rat Park. They've got loads of cheese, they've got loads of coloured balls, they've got loads of tunnels. Crucially, they've got loads of friends. But here's the fascinating thing. In Rat Park, they don't like the drugged water. You go from almost 100% overdose when they're isolated to 0% overdose when they have happy and connected lives. What if addiction isn't about your chemical hooks? What if addiction is about your cage? What if addiction is an adaptation to your environment? Maybe we shouldn't even call it addiction. Maybe we should call it bonding. Human beings have a natural and innate need to bond. And when we're happy and healthy, we'll bond and connect with each other. But if you can't do that because you're traumatized,
Please don't touch me. I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything.
They always show these strange videos of airplanes on my feed, and I don't know why. I'm not entertained by them. Like, it's so close.
Unless you're drinking the Kool-Aid. There's so many people out there that are running a script. Saying that the government is doing everything they can to help them. But when you have billions of dollars of debt being sent to other nations in the form of aid, and the companies providing that aid are linked to the politicians, then sadly it's the Canadian taxpayer that's financing the wealthy living of the top echelon of society, which is actually supposed to be serving us, the citizens. And the greatest lie I feel ever been told to us is that we're free. How can you be free if you live in fear? Fear of, am I going to be able to pay my mortgage? Am I going to be able to pay my rent? Can I afford food? Meanwhile, most of your money is being eaten up by interest and you don't even realize it, unless of course you're just doing your minimum payments on your debts. That's just part of the problem. The bigger problem is the bottom of the tip of the iceberg that nobody is seeing. And as somebody who used to be a banker, I felt it deep in my heart how people were drowning in debt. And the system is designed to make it look like people are out there helping you, but when you're part of the system, you're also part of the problem. So if we can understand the system, then we can leverage it to our benefit. But right now, we have a very, very systematic understanding of the system, meaning we are relaying a script. So on this channel, I'm going to take very complex topics, things that I resonate with, fitness, finance.
For a long time, this notion that Democrats were deliberately inviting masses of foreigners into the country because they wanted to grow little Democrats and create a one-party state. I've started to come around to that view. Before Trump effectively closed the southern border, I imagined a lot of it was incompetence and fecklessness. Now, there may be an element of that, but I think it was more intentional. The Biden administration opened that border on purpose and shipped people all over the country, wherever they wanted to go. They put illegal migrants with no ID onto commercial airplanes with regular passengers who all have to have, an impeccable national ID. I mean, it's just, there is design behind it. And I don't have any other theory aside from this pathological passion for minorities and a weird notion that people who are non-white are superior. I don't see any other reason for inviting so many people in, especially because, on the one hand,
Edmonton Andrew Knack is a total hypocrite. He's going on an 11-day trade mission to China and Japan after criticizing the police chief of Edmonton last month for going to Israel. What is he going to accomplish as the mayor of the city of Edmonton on a trade mission to the dictatorship of China? Can anyone answer that question? The hypocrisy is so rich here. Mayor Andrew Knack stated he is deeply disappointed and frustrated by the decision of the Edmonton police chief to travel to Israel and the Edmonton Police Commission chair's approval of this trip. He noted that for many Edmontonians, the violence in the West Bank and Gaza is not distant, with families grieving and worried about loved ones amid unimaginable hardships. He said decisions like these cause real hurt, damage relationships with communities that already feel marginalized, and break trust, and expects the Edmonton Police Chief and Commission to meaningfully connect with the community to repair broken trust. What about the Chinese community? What about the Chinese diaspora who are suffering here in Canada with the so-called Chinese police stations and all these other arms and mechanisms that China uses to exert influence and pressure on its Chinese diaspora around the planet? This is a fact. It's happening. He doesn't care about that. He's going over there. He's the biggest hypocrite in the planet, criticizing Israel, feelings of Israel and the war over there aside. He's criticizing
biggest hypocrite on the planet? I'm not sure.
That situation while going headfirst into the dictatorship in China to go and swirl wine around and have luxury meetings or whatever and accomplish nothing. The situation in China, the dictatorship over there, it's a fact. Xi Jinping, president for life. Dissidents are jailed, and arguably the state of China is engaging in a genocide from the U.S. government against their will. The situation.
Pierre Poilievre keeps trying to blame every job loss, inflation, everything on the Prime Minister. But Canadians know where that problem is coming from. It's south of the border. It's in the White House. And I think there's a sense from the Canadians that because of his experience as a former central banker at two places and running or being a chairman of a large trillion-dollar corporation, that he's the right person for the times, and they're giving him an awful lot of slack. When you think about it, 29% personal popularity over Pierre Poilievre, I've never seen those numbers in my life.
Give it up.
Doubled or something like people don't understand like the homeless thing because it sort of preys on people's empathy, and I think we should have empathy and we should try to help people, but the homeless industrial complex is really it's dark, man. It should be that network of NGOs should be called like the drug zombie farmers, because the more homeless people and really like when you meet like somebody who's like totally dead inside, shuffling along down the street with a needle dangling out of their leg. Homeless is the wrong word. Like homeless implies that somebody got a little behind on their mortgage payments, and if they just got a job offer, they'd be back on their feet. But someone who's
I'm just going to pause right now and say thank you to everybody for watching. Like trying a different interface. I've got a couple of different cameras and mics running. Anyhow, thank you all so much. I'm not on the keyboard very much. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Back to the show.
I mean, you see
back to the
these
show.
videos of people that are just shuffling, they're on fentanyl. They're like, taking a dump in the middle of the street, they got like open sores and stuff. They're not like one drop offer away from getting back on their feet.
Right. This is not a homeless
Homeless
issue.
is it's a propaganda word.
Right.
So, and then the these sort of charities in quotes they get money proportionate to the number of homeless people or number of drug zombies.
Right.
So their incentive structure is to maximize the number of drug zombies, not minimize it.
Right.
That's why they don't arrest the drug dealers. Because if they arrest the drug dealers, the drug zombies leave. So they know who the drug dealers are. They don't arrest them on purpose because otherwise the drug zombies would leave, and they would stop getting money from the state of California and from all the charities.
Wait a minute. So you say
it's dark, man.
Is that real? So they're in coordination with law enforcement on this?
Yeah.
So how do they have those meetings?
They're all in cahoots.
Well, when you find this,
it's like such. This is a diabolical scam. And San Francisco has got this tax, this gross receipts tax, which it's not even on revenue; it's on all transactions, which is why Stripe and Square had and a whole bunch of financial companies had to move out of San Francisco because it wasn't a tax on revenue; it's tax on transactions. So if you do trillions of dollars transactions, it's not revenue. You're taxed on any money going through the system in San Francisco. Like Jack Dorsey pointed this out, and they said look, that they had to move Square from San Francisco to Oakland, I think. Stripe had to move from San Francisco to South San Francisco, a different city. And that money goes to the homeless industrial complex, that tax that was passed. So there's billions of dollars that go, as you pointed out, billions of dollars every year that go to these non-governmental organizations that are funded by the state. It's not clear how to turn this off.
Ability's the best it's been in over a decade.
Is there another country that pays this much for gas? I don't think people realize this is $1.92 now where I live. Absolutely insane. But look at the comparison versus the United States. If it's $1.70 per liter in Canada, it's $1.44. We always hear on the news the US complaining about the gas prices. Here, we are literally getting bent over and they're using the gas as the lube.
In Canada, you pay up to 7 different types of taxes when you fill up your car. There is a provincial excise tax, carbon tax, transit tax, provincial sales tax, federal sales tax, federal excise tax, and my favorite, tax on tax. You won't see this breakdown on your receipt, by the way. So if you fill up your 64-liter tank, your true cost before tax is only $68, but you will also have to pay $38 in taxes. That brings your total cost to $106, since the federal carbon tax will continue to increase every year until
It's a lot of tax, for gas.
Sir, go over there. What's that? I asked you to go over there. Oh, I did. But I need your driver's license and why is that, officer? Because you have to know country in case but I had my vehicle in park. I was just filming here. You can argue this in court. I need your driver's license. Wait a minute. You're allowing people to chant for genocide, and you're apples and oranges right now. No, it's not. You are purposely targeting me. Are you going to give me your driver's license? Unbelievable. See, folks, this is the city.
We'll follow up with that later. Let's watch.
May have stopped because of the president's deference to one man. A new book is offering insight into the role of King Charles. Julia Chapman on this for us. And Julia, the book derives the detail from an interview with the U.S. president.
That's right, David. This is a book written by Robert Hardman, a British journalist and royal commentator. It's mostly about Queen Elizabeth II, but it does also touch on King Charles. And he interviewed President Trump back in December.
No. Okay,
was pointed out, the Coast Guard doesn't do that.
Let's go on Kevin Leary being a pig.
They board the ships, they interdict the drugs, they collect the evidence, and in many cases, they try these individuals and bring them to justice. Why can't we do that now?
So what I've learned from all this, and this is not the first time this has happened, don't get on a boat with drugs in it. You get blown up. That's what I've learned from this. And I think at the end of the day, the administration was elected to stop the inflow of drugs that are killing Americans. I think they're doing that. We're having a very healthy debate about it. But basically, no one's debating whether there were drugs on this boat. Venezuela's sending drugs out everywhere. And where it gets transferred to what boat and when, who knows? But if you're on a boat full of drugs, you get blown up. And I think this may have some drug dealers saying, maybe I want to slow down on the boat drug stuff, which is...
Unless you're really rich or famous, and then if you have a whole bunch of drugs, it's different because they're not importing. He should have, the word there should have been importing, exporting, whatever, drugs. Because if you have a whole lot of drugs on a boat, necessarily you're not getting blown up. That's the way I see it. Oh Lord, I sort of forgot my place here. Aaron, Canadian Looney, we're going to wrap up for now. I lost my place, guys. Oh my goodness, this is so embarrassing. Let's do it. Let's just wrap it up, I guess. I'm so embarrassed.
Oh, yeah.
You should do exercises. That's important to our good health. And friends, tomorrow we are going to be visiting with a fisherman who will tell us about his very enjoyable hobby. Now, I would like to see you all through our magic mirror. Romper, bumper, stomper, boo, tell me, do. Magic mirror, please tell me today, did all of my friends have fun at play? I see all of my friends in Alberta. It's nice to see you. And I see Dan and Vivian. I see Marlon and Mona. I see Catherine and Harley. I see Anne and Elizabeth and Jane. I see Bert and Nicole, and I see you too. I hope to see you tomorrow, right here in Romper Room.
Bing bong, knock knock, hey daddy do. Bing bong, tick tock, bebop boom.
Kick off your weekend with exciting CFL action when the Edmonton Eskimos tackle the BC Lions in Vancouver. Tomorrow night at 10:30 on CFTO TV.